Welcome to India Sports Biz Talks. Today we have with us Nisha Millet, who is the first Indian to qualify for swimming at the Olympics. Some of her achievements include winning more than 600 gold medals at the state, national, and international meets. Currently, she's the director of Nisha Millet Swimming Academy, which conducts swim programs for adults and children. The academy has coached more than 8,000 swimmers over the last 10 years. We'll be speaking to Nisha on her journey in the sport of swimming, understanding the landscape, and her comeback as a coach this time around. Just diving right into it, we all know you've been an ace swimmer, but I'd love to know how and what prompted you to get back this time, not obviously as an athlete, but as a trainer, as a coach, and as a businesswoman.
I think it was quite a natural progression for me when I decided to retire from competitive swimming. I didn't have to think too far. I always wanted to be involved in the sport in some way, and what better way than to give back to the sport that you love. But, my big choice was, do I teach competitive swimmers like I was, where you're training the elite, it seems very glamorous. It's a lot of hard work, no doubt. It's something I was more familiar with. But I decided to go the other way because I felt what was needed in India is really good grassroots level coaching, because somebody like me, I had a very bad near drowning experience as a kid. And my first swim class was terrible, where they just took me and chucked me in the deep end, the old fashioned way of teaching. And it was my dad who finally post that class when he realized I was hating, my fear was continuing. He got me into the pool. They made me enjoy the water, threw some coins in, and just the way he went about it. And, I fell in love with the sport, and then it's become my entire life. So I said, let me also teach kids and adults, and we've had an 84-year-old who's come and learned with us. So people of all ages, first teach them to enjoy the water, enjoy the environment, and then swimming comes next. It's quite a natural progression. So that's when I decided, let me get into teaching swimming. And, slowly from there, my academy has grown over the years.
Wow, that's a wonderful story. Especially, I brings up so much nostalgia, the throwing coins into water. But that's so inspiring. I want to understand also from a competitive landscape. I mean, of course, I'd love to hear how you started, but does the environment make a difference? I mean, I remember speaking to my friends who swam competitively at higher levels, but there weren't really ingrown facilities or facilities that they had within their schools or colleges, and they always had to travel miles to actually train, which is very basic requirement. So how much difference does that make? And having those facilities, has that changed the incorporation in schools, private and public bodies?
Definitely it's changed a lot over the last 20, 25 years. I learned in the early 90s, we had terribly maintained pools, very few 50-meter Olympic-sized pools. And that's one of the reasons I moved from Chennai, where I learned how to swim. I moved all the way to Bangalore because Bangalore is the hub of swimming in India. And there were a few places that had the top coaches, 50-meter pools. And now many years later, of course, Bangalore is my home. But what's great about Bangalore is that, number one, we have more pools. We have apartment pools, pools in schools, club pools, so the majority of the population does have access at different, varying rates. And even school kids are able to learn swimming in school, which is, like you said, a great opportunity. I have never been lucky enough to have a pool at my school, but we would still make that trek to a neighborhood pool. In those days, you have to travel quite a bit. When I wanted a bigger pool, I'd have to travel 1 hour sometimes in Chennai, or same in Bangalore as well. But now you have pools all over the place. So Karnataka is one of the best places to train. We have great weather where we can swim through the year. Of course, there's still a lot of facilities which we don't have. We're trying to now heat pools so that you can swim comfortably through the year. Otherwise, in winter, it does get cold. So in India, I think North India gets very, very, very cold. And unless there are more heated pools, it's a huge gap for these competitive swimmers. In the winter months, they have to either stop training or they have to come down to the south to train. So that, I think, will really help if we have really good, well-maintained pools. And of course, the most important thing after that is the environment. Like you said, we need more trained coaches right from the grassroots level so that their technique is good, which is what my academy is trying to do. And then slowly transitioning them, getting the, talented ones, those who are interested, speaking to their parents, and then transitioning them to competitive swimming. So that's tough because, in India, we don't have a big enough base. If you look at a country like America, Australia, or even Europe, everyone learns how to swim. So from a huge number, swimming is compulsory in schools. So then what happens, you have a huge base, and then you can choose the top few. In India, even though we have billions in this country, very few actually learn how to swim. So a lot of the ex-swimmers, swimming academies have started swimming academies, and we're trying to change that. We're trying to introduce swimming to the masses. And then, of course, it's easier when you have kids starting at 5, 6, learning to enjoy the water, learning their techniques. By the time we're 9 or 10, then we can identify, the talented ones, those who have a chance to, train competitively. And that's only then you'll see that the Asian Games medals and the World Championship medals start coming in. So we're doing pretty well now. We have 4 or 5 boys in the top 100 in the world, which is huge. There's one 18-year-old boy who's in the top 100 of the world, and this is not in the junior level, this is in the senior category. So we are making huge strides. A lot of that is true with improved coaching. A lot of the boys do go and train and race abroad as well. Some of the girls do as well. So we're hoping that you'll see this huge spurt, in competitive swimming, but that has to come from grassroots being a little bit stronger.
That makes absolute sense. Drawing the focus back to your academy, how difficult or easy was it for you to come back and set up an academy from scratch? You market yourself, position yourself in a different way than who you were as an athlete.
It was very difficult initially. Just the criticism from relatives was, are you sure you want to do this? Because why don't you just get a government job, sit in an office behind a computer, which never even crossed my mind. Obviously that'd be the most secure thing to do. But I never for 1 second, I guess I didn't even have a normal upbringing in terms of I was always out of school and college. I was always at swim camp. So I've never sat in one place. So for me, sitting down in one place felt very alien to me and not doing something I love, waking up every morning and saying, oh God, I've got to work. Here, every morning you wake up and my friends say nothing has changed because I still smell of chlorine. I still wear track pants, to work or a swimsuit. So it's like you're doing something you love. It doesn't really feel like work because every day is a new challenge. But having said that, it was very tough in the initial years because number one, like I said, we didn't have heated pools. So even our revenue was very seasonal. We would do very well in summer. And then the rest of the year, we would have hardly any funds, hardly any classes going on. So we'd have to make the summer funds last the rest of the year. But of course, we stuck to it, and there were times that my husband and me would do 8 hours a day. So my husband as well runs the academy with me. So he gave up his full-time job with another sports company and joined full-time. And we've actually done like 8 hours of classes plus traveling and, autos or cabs or, and doing personal classes in small apartments. So it started really us slogging, till we really got every single bit of, business that we could. Then we saw how can we, fine tune this? How can we, cater to a larger audience? So that's when we approached schools and put our coaches in there. So started building our team. Now it's close to 20 years almost that we're operational, and we've had some of our coaches for a good 14, 15 years. So that's the satisfying part. But definitely the challenge is one, not having our own pool. So right now we have 2 pools which we run and we manage the maintenance. So we have more control over that, which is great. But other 6 pools, we have 8 in total. The other 6 belong to clubs or hotels. So we are at their mercy in terms of, sometimes they might have an event, they'll cancel the classes, or, the school kids have a swim meet, they'll cancel the classes. But at the same time, in a situation like now where we're in a pandemic, we only have to worry about 2 of our 8 pools. The other 6 pools are being managed by the institution, that owns them. So there are plus and minuses, I guess, to every business. And in India and swimming, it's more about, like you said, what's the differentiator between us and the other academies? So for us, we wanted it to be more about quality. And, so we decided that for one coach, we wouldn't take more than 8 kids. So that made a huge difference, I think, because when I was growing up, you'd see 20, 25 kids. The coaches don't know your names. You would each get just maybe 5 minutes in the water. Everybody else is sitting on the side of the pool waiting for the coach, So we wanted that to be a little more, back and forth between the coach and the student. We also encourage our coaches to talk to the kids because kids are so smart nowadays, and adults as well. They want to know what they're learning. So we go about it in a very systematic manner where, we teach in a certain progression. Of course, everyone teaches differently. We don't have one method of teaching, but at the end of the day, we want them, number one, to first of all, enjoy the water. Number two, not to have that fear element, being pushed in or being forced to swim or jump into a deep end. In fact, we teach mostly in shallow pools. And then, of course, we want to take the cream of the, the cream of the lot we want to get them into competitive swimming. Some of our athletes are now winning national medals. I've got some triathletes who are going to represent the country in the World Triathlon Championship. So it's great to see how much we've grown, but it was definitely a long, tough road. I'd say in the last 4 to 5 years is when we really found our footing. We've kind of created a niche for ourselves. The brand is well recognized. People appreciate it now. In the pandemic, we're still getting mails, and that shows the kind of trust people have for us, The fact that they want to come saying, we know your academy is very serious about safety, about cleanliness. We know that you'll keep our kids safe or keep us safe. So now we know, like, okay, we've got a great brand, and now it's just about growing and improving the quality that we give our customers.
Right. What is really the general perception of swimming in India? Because even worldwide, when we talk about swimming, of course, it comes up at the Olympics as the most celebrated sport for the Olympics. But then, just because of the sheer nature of the sport, because of how seasonal it is, what is the general perception of swimming in India from an athlete's perspective, like yourself, and how has that changed over the years from the time where you swam as an athlete to now? How do you see a change in parents reacting to their kids taking up swimming?
I think initially it was thought of, not even thought of as something you could have a career in. Like they would always ask my parents, like, what else is she going to do? It's not like I stopped studying. I made sure, my parents always mentioned that education has to be there, at the same time as your career as well as your sports career. So that helps because you always have that, as a backup. But at the same time, parents didn't think that, I could have an academy. So when I decided to start my own academy, a lot of them questioned it. Now they see that we do have a successful academy. We work for ourselves. We're doing something we love. Hopefully one day my kids, I've got twin daughters, maybe they'll want to grow up and, take the academy forward. So that's great. And what the main difference I feel is from the time I was swimming, it was considered a summer camp sport, summer camp, and the parents don't know what to do with the kids. Also, it's really hot. They would put them in a summer camp for 2-3 weeks. And that's it. The rest of the year, they wouldn't swim. And then again, the next summer, they would put them in for 2-3 months. So now we're trying to change this perception. Number one, we're talking about it as a life skill. It is a life-saving skill because not only can you save yourself, you can even, if you learn proper rescue techniques, you can rescue someone else. So it's great when you go on a holiday, you could, be able to, if you're swimming with, as long as you're swimming in a safe environment, you can get to the sea or, in a river. There's so many options. So people now want to do it. Even we get a lot of people who are getting married for their honeymoon. They want to go snorkeling. So now they're thinking about it more in terms of traveling and exploring the world. Knowing swimming is very important. And the main thing we've seen is once they learn, they want to either improve. Some want to get into competitive swimming if they're young. The older crowd now looking at triathlons, Ironman events, where swimming is always the toughest of the 3 sports, that they follow. And we have a lot of people who are just swimming for fitness. So that's one thing that's really warmed my heart because, others you'd only hear of people going to a gym. But now they've realized people with injuries, knee issues, high BP, even depression. It shows that, hydrotherapy is one of the best to combat a lot of these issues, a lot of the lifestyle illnesses that we face today. So we find a lot of people, a lot of the working crowd, either before or after work, they sign up for a monthly membership and they use swimming as, as a form of daily exercise. So that's the best part because then what happens is more people are getting involved in the sport. Academies are doing better. They're able to invest more in better facilities, better training for the coaches, And we're also able to convince parents that if you train kids professionally, you take it slow, you don't burn them out when they're young. I find parents nowadays of the competitive swimmers, we have a very young team that trains with us. But even at the age of 10, 11, 12, the parents are so involved. They don't mind getting them a nutritionist to make sure they're eating well. They don't mind going to a sports conditioning specialist, so that they're not learning the wrong techniques in land to make them stronger. So it's really good because we feel parents are really focused. They're trying to manage both swimming and studies, which is the best thing, managing your swimming and studies together really teaches you time management and focus. So we're finding these kids are doing really well. And then sometimes, it's not just about always getting that medal. Sometimes they want them in that environment where they're in a healthy environment, a little bit of competition, discipline. And, a lot of them are talking about it as a life skill. They want them just to be part of a team and they feel they're learning so much from that. So it's easier, I feel, to get parents to put their child into competitive swimming. We don't push them so much where, if they come and tell me, ma'am, I have my best friend's birthday party, I say, go, because these are young kids, they're not professional athletes or in their 20s, Obviously, when you get to that age, you need to be serious. You need to, really sacrifice a lot, go after your goals. But as younger kids, we're just letting them have fun, enjoy the team environment. And we see a lot of kids are taking up swimming because of that. It might seem like a individual sport, but funnily enough, the element of team is very, very strong. So that's one good thing I see even with my team. We're called the Marlins. In this pandemic, they've been doing Zoom calls, they've been having little contests, they've been doing homework, swimming homework, and they're bonding quite a bit. And now that pools have been finally given the nod to open, they're ecstatic, more than anything to see their friends, but also to get back to their swimming.
That's actually a great segue. The last point that you mentioned into my next question is
Yeah.
during the pandemic, how are athletes though really coping up? How has the facility and your academy tried to make the best use of the facility at this point?
It has definitely been the most challenging 6 to 7 months for the entire international swimming fraternity, only because, swimming cannot be replicated on land. If you're a tennis player, you could take a ball and you could hit it against the wall with a racket in your own home. Now, in the pool, it's pretty much impossible to recreate it. We do a lot of dry land training, strength training at home. We've tried to explain to the kids, let's get mentally tougher. So we've had sessions where they either talk to senior athletes or to a psychologist, sports psychologist, to work on their mental strength. But in terms of the actual feel of the water, that's definitely going to be missing, because when you don't enter the water for so long, you lose that feel of the water where you catch the water and pull it. So that's something where now that pools are reopening, all the coaches from across India have been talking, and we have to really ease them back in, because you cannot suddenly go back to what they were doing earlier. They'll start getting injured. So we're slowly easing them back in, letting them have just, maybe if they were doing 8, 9 sessions a week earlier, they would now just be doing 4 to 5 sessions. So it has set us back, but then so has the rest of the world. Some countries were lucky where they have a small pool in their backyard, and they would attach something like what we call a stretch cord, which is like a resistance band, and they would just swim in one place. But unfortunately, in India, we don't really have backyard pools. And all the public pools were all closed. In fact, only a handful of pools around India are allowed to open, and only for competitive swimmers right now. So it is a huge setback. It's more about keeping the athletes positive, keeping them upbeat. And I think it affected the senior athletes more, who maybe it was their last 1 or 2 years. But the younger kids, I think it's about one of those, absence makes your heart grow fonder, because they're really like, dying. They're saying, give us those the tough sets that we used to cry about in the pool. We are more than happy to do it. We have realized how much we miss swimming. So I think you'll see some renewed enthusiasm with the younger crowd. But with the older kids, yes, it's been very tough trying to speak to them. And even some of the senior swimmers would talk to me, those who qualified for the Olympics. So I just kept telling them, look at it, look at the bright side. We always need time to catch up to the foreigners. So think of it as one additional year of training. We had 4 boys who've qualified for the Olympics this year. So 1 or 2 of them call me regularly, just have a chat. So I try and be very upbeat and, tell them what they can do. So some of them are working on improving their own brand, bringing in sponsors. Some are doing the most important thing, which is mental strength training. But just trying to keep the whole industry up. I've spoken at different academies across Bangalore on Zoom, try to encourage the kids, because all of us have had tough times, but definitely I don't think in our history we ever thought of a 6-month break from swimming. So it will be a big hurdle to get over.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a tough time for everybody, and I can
Yeah.
only imagine how difficult it is for these athletes, especially those in their last few years, and how
Yeah.
much that kind of takes away. But yeah, like you said, looking at the bright side and what else we can incorporate.
Yeah.
Um, I also want to understand what you think are the missing elements at this point in the whole swimming within the sports ecosystem in India.
We do really well up to the junior level. Junior level would be about 14, 15 years. We're actually on par with the rest of the world. We've had people break into the top 7 in the world in the junior Olympics, junior world championships. So the fact is that we are doing very well to that point. It's post that what happens is, number one, in India, the studies takes a huge toll on the athletes, because we don't get scholarships here. So what happens is, unless you get a scholarship and go to America and say to an NCAA Division 1 or Division 2 college, and you get to swim professionally. Otherwise, in India, it's very tough, because you have to slog like everybody else to make 95, 96%, which is very, very difficult. For an average, for the normal student who's not an athlete itself, it's tough enough. So if you have long, tiring hours, I would swim maybe 6 hours a day, 6 days a week. So and then you're also doing college and school. That doesn't really leave much time, to study, to at least to top your class. So there's this huge pressure, and parents still thinking that, I want my kid to only be an engineer or a doctor. So we're trying to even educate parents who come to us, whose kids swim with us, that, okay, even if you decide that swimming isn't going to be, their career, always think about the fact that getting back into sports is also a great career option. You could become a sports psychologist, you could become you could do sports medicine, you could get into biomechanics. There's so much you can do. So the one good thing is, my generation of swimmers, I know, the competitive swimmers who represented India, a lot of us have given back now, gotten back into sports and stayed in India. And kind of trying to impact, do a lot of good work amongst the youngsters. So whether it is people who are into sports marketing, some people are bringing down swim teaching courses from other countries. Like I also do a course where we train swim teachers in India, but we use the Australian swim teaching certification. So we're just trying to, number one, learn from the best, give our students the very best. And sometimes at some point we have to get our athletes to go abroad and train. So that is very, very important. We still don't have amazing facilities. We still don't have that entire, what do you say, like it's a team effort, So the athlete in India is pretty much doing everything. My mother would be my chef, my dietitian. She'd also be a manager running around for sponsorships. My dad would be my psychologist. Whereas if you go abroad, you have a whole team of experts doing that for you, And when I had a brief chance to train in Australia on a couple of scholarships, just 3 months, 6 months. And that was when I qualified for the Olympics. And I felt it's because I had this whole team of experts working with me, So these small things that are neglected when you're in India are taken care of. And that pushes that athlete to the next level. I work with some sports brands where we can provide good, products to whether it's nutrition or swimsuits to all the athletes in India, because we're trying to get them whatever the foreigners have, we want our Indian swimmers to have it. So already you can see that they're doing very well. We've got a couple of Asian Games medals in the last 10 years. So we are moving up, but we're still a long way away from, say, breaking into the semi-finals at the Olympics, which is the top 16. So it's just a long road ahead, but I think the government needs to take swimming more seriously. Even the fact that ours was the last sport to open up, which is really sad, because chlorine is shown to be one of the best disinfectants when it comes to avoiding COVID, and even sports like, combat sports like boxing, sports where there's physical proximity were allowed to open a couple of months ago, but swimming is only allowed to open very selectively. So I think the government also has to realize, like you said, swimming is one of the most glamorous events. It also has the highest number of gold medals for, available in Olympics, so it's something that they should be putting a lot more, money and time into, and then that will really help our swimmers. Right now, only the top few get a little bit of funding, but the grassroots is pretty much ignored. So that's where you have to really work at spreading the, the sport all over the country.
Absolutely, very valid and much needed. So if you had to give, let's say, 3 recommendations for swimming in India, what would your recommendations be, and where do you wish to see the swimmers in India in the next few years?
The first thing would be not to rush into their competitive career. We see this where the Indian parents, I feel, are very, very competitive, not just in studies, which everyone knows, but also in sports. My parents were very clear, you need to come, so you need to focus on your swimming, but studies also needs to be there. But they never forced me, come first in class. They said, get a first class and that's good enough for us, above 65, 70%. And then the most important thing I feel for kids is talking to their parents and telling them when they would like to make that move into competitive swimming, because a little bit of the fun of swimming is lost when you got to get into competitive training, because it is a lot of long hours, unlike a sport like football where in a practice you score a goal and you feel that instant sense of achievement. In swimming you don't do that. It's a lot of hard sets, a lot of exhaustion, swimming up and down, looking at a black line at the bottom of the pool. So you really have to love the sport. And I feel that the parents sometimes push their kids. Sometimes the kids are saying, I don't want to do this, or it's too early for me to do this. But the parents push them. So don't push your kids into getting into a competitive sport too early. I'm quite a tiger mom myself, and my kids are only 7, and I would love to obviously see them. I keep telling them 2032 Olympics, you'll be 19. So that's 1 year older than I was, But having said that, I made sure that they had a lot of fun. They've been in the water from the time they're 6 months, but they literally learned how to swim only, I would say, last year when they were 6, So a lot of it was playing, having fun, taking their own time. I purposely didn't coach them. So I put them with, teachers from my academy so that they don't feel that pressure of me always being around. And now that they love it, I'm still not looking at competitive for them right now, because first thing you need to do is improve their technique, So in India, that's where they hurry. They try to push them into competing and they forget all about the technique, which is the most important thing. If you see any world champion, what sets them apart is their technique. Workouts, you can get the workouts of the foreign swimmers and do the same thing in India. But what sets them apart is the fact that they focus so much on technique. And so that's where we need to really push our kids to improve, think about their technique, think as swimmers as well. Not just the coach gives you a workout and you do it blindly, learn, watch YouTube videos. So that's where this pandemic's helped, where we've let these kids watch videos, underwater videos of some of the world champions. And then we'll tape them underwater and show them, then they can see the difference. So if technique is there, I feel kids will get to the next level. And also make sure your child is ready to step into that competitive environment. That's number one. Number two, I would say when they get to that point where they are serious, where they're about 14, 15, they're making that transition from juniors into seniors, I think it is important to get some foreign exposure. You have to go abroad, because in India, it's pretty easy to win a national medal. I'm quite confident, like if you have a good coach, if you train regularly, that in most sports you could get to the national level pretty easily. But it's when you go out of India and you realize what kind of competition there is, how professionally everybody else, is training. So that's very, very important. So I think the government needs to send maybe our top juniors for long camps away, because a lot of foreign coaches don't want to come to India for various reasons. So we'd have to send our top swimmers over there to get the best exposure, and only when we start winning those medals will you actually see a lot of funding coming in. Like you see in badminton now, there's so much funds coming in because we have two, Olympic medals, and, Saina and Sindhu have, really popularized it to a next level, so I think, the main thing I think would be getting kids, like I said, into competitive programs out of the country when they're in that very crucial phase. And then, of course, the last thing would be, being very, very careful about injuries. I know that an injury is what stopped me from swimming as well towards the end of my career. And we don't have good sports medicine. So kids are overtraining here, they're burning out. Or, we have very talented kids who are just doing too much. And overtraining. So the whole concept of rest and rehab, getting regular massages, going for contrast baths, which is sauna, and then ice bath, all these things are done regularly as part of normal training goes when it comes to the professional athletes abroad. But in India, it's there's only a few who are exposed to it. So even for our young swimmers, we're trying to incorporate all this, where they'll go for a massage once a month. They learn how to do, a little bit of foam rolling in the house where they can release their own muscles. We teach them how to rest, So after competition, we insist they take a break. So all these things are something that we never thought about. It was all about train, train, train. I think for our athletes to do well, we also have to focus on recovery and rehabilitation. And that's what will give you a long career, because you want them to swim into their 20s, so get into college and continue swimming. And unfortunately, in India, we don't have much in terms of collegiate swimming, so you'd have to go maybe to the NCAA. The American system is the best. Some of the Division A colleges, you have to be in the top 100 in the world, Division 1 colleges. So, it would be nice to see our athletes. We have a few now, competitive athletes who've gone there and are now swimming in different universities. So that, I think, is the future. If you want to see them make that huge impact in their 20s and 30s, they have to go out of India and compete and train there.
Absolutely. I think you laid down so many points and such insightful ones. One, I'm really excited for 2032 to see your daughters at the Olympics. But secondly, I just know that you already made the nation so proud as an athlete. And I'm so glad that you've made a comeback as a trainer to actually give all those inputs back into the world of swimming in India. So very excited for what the future holds for swimming in the Indian sports ecosystem. Thank you so much for sharing all your insights. This brings me to the end of my questions, and really, really appreciate you taking out the time to do this.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, Ananya.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please don't be afraid to reach out and let me know what else and who else you want to listen to next. If you did enjoy this interview, please don't forget to subscribe and rate the podcast India Sports Biz Talks through your desired podcasting platform. To end the podcast, I'd like to leave you with a quote by Michael Phelps. You can't put a limit to anything. The more you dream, the farther you get. With that thought in mind, thank you, and until next time, keep the Josh high.